Well, parents, of course, have a big responsibility to prepare their young ones. We want our young ones to make progress in the truth. We study with them since they are very young. And once we have studied with them for 5, 6, 7 years, you would expect some progress from our young ones. If you studied with a Bible student for 5, 6, 7 years, you'd expect the student to make progress, wouldn't you? In some countries, we find that young ones, 10, 11, 12 years old, are not even unbaptized publishers yet. And then we find that young ones 13, 14, 15 years old are not even baptized. And yet their parents have studied with them since infancy. Well, it makes us wonder sometimes, is our teaching program really effective? Now, of course, when our young ones are very little, we may have them cut things out and build a model of Noah's Ark. And we may read them from the Bible Stories book. And when they get to be 10, 11, 12 years old, they're going to start needing something more solid, aren't they? So we would recommend that parents begin studying the Bible Teach book with these young ones, so that they get a basic idea of what the truth is all about. Making cutouts is fine, but that alone is not going to give us a solid foundation so that we can defend ourselves. And then, of course, we can follow that out with the book on God's love. So that by the time they're in their early teens, our young ones can be solid servants of Jehovah God. Now, sometimes young ones feel that, they really, they don't want to follow the truth too much. They don't feel like getting up and going out in field service on Saturday mornings, or maybe not to attend the meetings. And the parents say, well, I don't like to force my children to do something they don't want to do. I want it to come from their heart. But is that really wise? Brothers, let's be honest. Just between you and me. Do you always feel like getting up on Saturday morning and going in field service? I'll be honest with you. There are mornings when it's really cold in New York City. When I open one eye on Saturday morning, and I would just love to roll over and sleep another 3 hours. And sometimes the only reason I get up and go out is because you don't miss field service. But of course, when you do get up and go out, you enjoy it. And when you come home, you rarely want to jump back into bed and sleep for 3 hours. It's refreshing. Now, there are times when I've worked very hard during the day. Believe it or not, you are not the only ones who work hard. On the governing body, we've been known to work hard too. And there are times when, on meeting night, you just love to jump into bed and go to sleep rather than go to the meeting. But you go because you don't miss meetings. But at the end of the meeting, you don't want to run home and go to bed. You want to go out for pizza with the friends because you have been refreshed by the meetings. Now, when parents say that they don't ever want their children to do anything they don't want to do, they really don't mean it. Now suppose that your son Christopher got a job this summer working at MacDonalds. Now the first day of work, you go into his room and wake him up. Christopher, time to get up. Christopher opens one eye and says, Ma, let me sleep.
La honom sova.
Do you phone the manager of MacDonalds and say, now, in our home, we don't believe in forcing our children to do anything they don't want to do. Now, Christopher doesn't feel like going to work today. But don't worry, his father and I are going to try to touch his heart. And I'm sure that between now and the end of the month, he'll feel like showing up, at least sometimes. I don't think you'd do that. You'd say, come on, get up. You're going to learn that there are things we have to do in life whether we feel like it or not. And you would commend yourself. You'd say, this is being a good parent. If you would do that for a Big Mac, why wouldn't you do that when your child's everlasting life is involved? Now let's think of a biblical example. No Big Macs in the Bible. Jehovah told Jonah to go to Nineveh and preach to the Ninevites. Jonah went in the opposite direction. He had a ride in a big fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And when he came out, did Jehovah say, well, I don't want to force Jonah to do anything he doesn't want to do? No, he said, get up, go to Nineveh. Now, what do you think Jonah's motivation was for going to Nineveh? Do you think he said, oh boy, now I understand. I'm eager to preach to those Ninevites. Probably the only reason he went is because he didn't want to have another ride in that fish. But of course, there was a blessing for it. So parents, look well to the training of your children. And really, the progress that your children make, to a certain extent, shows what kind of a teacher you are.
Og det er jo egentlig sånn at de framskritt som deres barn